know, I don't. It's hard to answer that question.
Sure.
And, you know, you're an American, and I know you see, you know, what Canadian bands are breaking down here.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, have you heard of Stereos?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're a huge artist in Canada. They're like an auto-tune, pop, rock, tattoo, metal band.
Okay.
Weird, right?
Right.
It's different, you know. And they're a band in Canada, or just they're massive.
Right.
You know, they have a gold record, and they had all this success on Irish music, and that is very big in Canada. But that doesn't always translate to the U.S.
Right.
And like things like Drake, and Bieber, I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that are different. So it's weird how certain things kind of translate across the border, and others don't. I mean, like Billy Talent, for example. I don't know where they'd play if they played here in Cincinnati, but in Toronto they play, you know, sold-out arenas.
Maybe something like Madison, or maybe over across in Cincinnati at Bogart's.
Yeah, I mean, they're a massive band in Canada.
So, I mean, what do you think it is then with these bands that make that crossover? I mean, if there's such that weird, clear divide.
You know, if I knew that,
right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you know, that's something that people have been trying to figure out for years. And one of the main reasons a lot of people don't know why there's these bands that have so much success in Canada and don't have much success in the U.S. is because in Canada we have rules on the radio. They have to play 35% Canadian music.
Oh, okay.
So you can imagine how much fucking Nickelback gets played on that shit, and like, you know, just some of the worst Canadian bands.
Right.
3 Days Grace, and like they're pretty big in the U.S., aren't they?
Yeah,
3 Days Grace.
Very much so.
So you have these bands just like getting jammed, like rammed down your throat constantly. These Canadian bands. So, you know, we're a bit different because we're actually maybe bigger in the U.S. than we are in Canada, or about the same size, and so it's been interesting for us because we started in the U.S. because we had a U.S. label, so we kind of started in the U.S. and then Canada kind of caught on later, even though that's where we're from.
Right.
So I mean, I'm getting a little off topic.
No, it's all right. I like these sorts of tangential things.
Yeah, but it's interesting though about how these bands, some of them are breaking in the States and some of them aren't.
Yeah.
And really, it is hard to know. I mean, Alexis on Fire is another example of a band that's massive in Canada, and in the U.S. they've never really broken. You know?
They started to. It never quite happened. No, I would say City and Colors probably getting a little bit more spotlight than
Alexis on Fire. You know, and like, excuse me. And I don't know why, but it's a very weird thing to be a Canadian band and have to deal with all the Canadian rules that there are about radio, and you know, and there's all this government grant money, and it's very interesting to be an artist up there, and in a lot of ways there's a lot of perks, but then in a lot of ways it's really hard because it's hard to get in your country. It's hard, very hard, to cross the border and get the right paperwork and stuff, and and it's a challenge to be a Canadian band, especially when you're starting out. You can't just come across the border.
Oh no, I figured there's probably.
So it's very, very difficult and very, very expensive.
Right.
That's why you don't have bands, you know, smaller bands touring the U.S. Canadian bands.
So it's just not an artist-friendly structure or band-friendly structure.
It's just the government.
Just the government.
Yeah. In the U.S., it's just the border.